Next on AM 1480 WLEA, the Newsmaker Show. Here's Brian O'Neill.
And today's show will be yesterday's weekly press call with quoting Republican Congressman Tom Reed. The first question came from the Jamestown Post-Journal. It was about Iran.
I'd like to get your take on the president's, well, first of all, maybe just remarks on the strike against the Iranian general late last week, and your thoughts on the president's remarks that he made from the White House today.
Yeah, so, well, first, when it comes to Soleimani, as I indicated in my public statement before, I appreciate the president taking the action he did. There's no doubt in my mind, after the briefings I've received both here today in the Capitol, as well as a meeting in the White House with the president and with the leaders there this morning, that Soleimani represented a direct threat to American citizens, American men and women in the military, and the taking out of Soleimani was appropriate and the right call. As we deal with this situation and watch overnight, obviously this is a very sensitive time, and I want to be part of the voices coming out of Washington, D.C. to tell Iran, let's de-escalate. Let's all take a deep breath here. The missiles last night, thank God, did not kill any American soldiers or citizens. And now is an opportunity that I see for an opportunity for us to de-escalate this situation, bring our partners from Europe into NATO into the mix, and also to potentially use the economic tools of sanctions and diplomacy as a move away from military options in order to get Iran to do what we want it to do, and that is just stop supporting terrorism, stop attacking American interests and American people and American citizens and American military, and join the choir of normal nations that do not engage in this terroristic behavior.
Just one quick follow-up. Any remarks to what, or any response to Trump's initial remarks, which I know were widely condemned, about striking cultural sites in Iran? I know he's walked those back a little bit, but just want to get your take on that.
I appreciate the walking back of that, and I think it was clear from the administrative officials that spoke on that is not an option that will be pursued, and I appreciate that. But I do think it also, though, was a remark by the president to say he was not going to commit war crimes, but that he was serious about sending the message to Iran that continual attacks on American soldiers, American individuals, and American interests is just not going to be tolerated. And I think that message hopefully has been received by Iran.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Von Golden.
Hey, Tom.
Hey, Ben.
Happy New Year to you. And I wanted to get your thoughts on Representative Slotkin. I know she has this bill out on AUMF and proactive. I haven't gone through the bill, of course, yet. But with proactively removing President Trump's war powers through the AUMF, I wanted to get your general thoughts on that. And really just in a theoretical sense, any Democratic-led efforts to repeal those war powers.
Well, first, I know Representative Slotkin, and I know she's working on a resolution. I've not seen final language that she's been able to secure the necessary votes in order to bring that to the floor and have approval. Now, as I have always consistently said, Congress needs to act. When our men and women are asked to go into harm's way and risk their lives, the political cowardice of existing Congresses of not going on the record in regards to whether or not they support or oppose military action is something I stand against. I think Congress should go on record, and we'll wait and see what kind of language the Democratic-led House can come up with. In the meantime, that being said, I recognize the inherent authority of the President of the United States to take action like he did with Soleimani, to remove imminent threats of risk of harm to the lives and interests of America, and being able to deploy, as Commander-in-Chief, our military assets to engage in that protective role. When it comes to things like boots on the ground and protracted entanglements, obviously I believe Congress should act on that, and given We don't know what that request will be like, what that mission, if any, is going to look like. I don't think it would be responsible for me to speculate how I would vote on a hypothetical. But I do believe Congress should go on record when it comes to the request to go into harm's way in a protracted, especially when it comes to putting boots on the ground of the soil of another sovereign entity.
And real quick, how's the climate different? Rewind 6, 7 months back to last July, Democrats packed an AUMF repeal into one of the spending bills, I think sometime in July. What's different now than back then? And if I'm correct, you didn't vote on that last one. I didn't vote in favor of that last one.
I did vote for that amendment. As I read the amendment that dealt with Iran, that was an amendment that said there's no authority to attack Iran itself, the sovereign nation, and engage on the soil of the Iranian nation. And I did support that amendment. What is different now from then is obviously we have a situation where Iran's aggressiveness has escalated clearly from the briefings I've received and seen and the news reports that are out there. Their behavior, be it killing of an American individual, as well as attacking a U.S. embassy, for example, is and was escalating. Now we took action in killing one of their key command and control operatives in Soleimani, and hopefully the message, I think, has been received that America does have limits as to its restraints. And, let's see how this unfolds over the next 24 to 72 hours. But right now, I'm comfortable in what has been done and support the president in regards to the action that's been taken today.
Okay, thank you very much, and thanks for correcting me on that.
Yep, no doubt.
It's the Congressman Tom Reed weekly press call here on Newsmaker today. Next question came from Lucas Day. He's with the Finger Lakes Daily News.
Lucas Day.
Congressman, I just wanted to get your reaction to Nancy Pelosi saying that the taking out of Soleimani was disproportionate and a needless provocation. Just your reaction to her saying those types of words in the killing of what is considered a terrorist.
Obviously, I disagree with the Speaker's assessment of the killing of Soleimani. I do recognize that the Speaker did come out in that same statement and recognize the evilness of Soleimani and his historic actions of killing American citizens and American men and American soldiers. And so I join with her in regards to that assessment of Soleimani. But I do disagree with her in the sense that there was a clear indication to me of escalation occurring at Soleimani's directive, and there is a clear presentation, if you would, as much as I can get into it, in regards to the threats that he was escalating to in regards to additional threats to American interests and citizens or soldiers in particular. And so I think it was the right call. I disagree with the Speaker on this, and my hope is that the Speaker and other members of the U.S. House will come forward and say, you know what, we are not going to play partisan politics, and we're going to let politics end at the water's edge. And how we're going to proceed is kind of what Joe Lieberman said in a Wall Street Journal piece when I talked to Senator Lieberman that I thought was spot on. We should be united in our voice today and saying the taking out of Soleimani, such an evil terrorist amongst us, was the right call. And then going forward, we will work together to stand united as one nation to take on these threats to America's security.
Congressman, thank you.
Yep, thank you, Lucas.
WXXI.
Hi, Congressman. Happy New Year. Just had one quick question. We have seen a couple of media reports that you're not ruling out a run for governor. Can you talk about that a little bit?
That's correct. We have been approached by numerous individuals across the state about candidacy for governor, and I appreciate that conversation, and I'm not ruling it out because what I see in Albany right now is one-party control that is pushing the state in a direction that jeopardizes the future potential of New York as the Empire State. And if I can be part of the efforts to take on that one-party control and govern in the spirit of a Charlie Baker or Larry Hogan, the governors of Massachusetts and Maryland, I will support that candidacy, and I appreciate people considering us as someone to do take that action. But we'll see how this unfolds. But we're not ruling it out as we sit here today.
Okay, just a quick follow-up. Have you been paying any attention to today's State of the State address? And if so, do you have any reaction to that?
I think what I see coming out of the governor's State of the State is a tripling down of his commitment to this more extreme ideology that has overtaken Albany. And rather than demonstrate what he did in the beginning of his tenure as governor, is to stand up to that extremism, I see him capitulating to that overtaking of the Democratic Party by the extreme hard left and one-party control. So, I encourage my colleagues in Albany to stand up and speak of their vision for the state that empowers people rather than government and gets our fiscal house in order, especially at the state level when it's looking at a $6 billion deficit that is going to decimate the potential greatness of New York for generations if not addressed appropriately.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
The next question on Congressman Tom Reed's weekly press call came from Terry Frank. He's a Jamestown reporter.
Hey, I did want to follow up a little bit on the attacks involving Iran. There was an AP story that came out here just a little while ago. The U.S. and Iran, it says, stepped back from the brink of a possible war Wednesday. Are we far enough away from war, or where do things go now in your mind?
Well, I think obviously there was a lot of sensitivity and over the last 24 hours and a lot of anxiety, myself included, watching how this would unfold, given the nature of the rhetoric that we saw over the last 24 hours being deployed by Iran and elsewhere. And I don't think we're out of the woods yet. I think right now is the time for us to pause, for all of us as elected officials to try to raise a voice of calmness and to see how this unfolds over the next 24 to 72 hours. But I think we're going in the right direction. I think both parties recognize in Iran and America today that we need to de-escalate from where we were over the last 24 hours, and that is a positive direction to pursue, in my humble opinion.
How about talks between the two entities? I know that the president felt that he needed to talk to Kim Jong-un in North Korea. When do we talk to the Iranians?
So I do know from briefings that I have received and conversations I have had that there is a willingness by America and the White House in particular to engage in conversations with Iran, as Secretary Pompeo, I think, has said publicly, anywhere, anytime, on anything, so long as there is recognition that Iran's commitment to nuclearization is off the table, and that there are a commitment to disengage from terrorist type of activity or sponsored terrorist activity. And those dialogues, those conversations are being held as we speak in public domains, and hopefully through back channels that will continue. And hopefully, as we go forward, it will be in everyone's interest to recognize that it is time to stand down, and hopefully Iran will recognize that it is in their long-term interest to come to the table in a responsible way.
Thank you, Tom.
Yep, thank you.
Newsmaker's show. Today we're playing back yesterday's press conference with Corning Republican Congressman Tom Reed. Going to take a quick break, check the weather. We'll be back. Stay with us.
A New Year's Warehouse sales event has been extended until the end of January at Mullen Factory Direct Flooring in Almond. You'll save up to 75% on over 500,000 square feet of in-stock flooring. The major name brands, hardwoods, laminate, vinyl, and carpet. Keep your cash in your pocket and take advantage of special payment options like 0% interest to qualified buyers. If you're planning a flooring project, you can't miss this sale. The New Year's Warehouse sales event's been extended till January 31st at Mullen Factory Direct Flooring in Almond. Don't miss out on these deals.
Checking in now with meteorologist Rob Carolyn.
Brian O'Neill, what is the deal with your continued ire appeal? Weather-wise this morning, Brian, we've got some chilly temperatures across the region. Most of us starting out in the teens. We've even got a few single-digit readings showing up, especially as you work your way down towards the Pennsylvania-New York State border. In fact, Bradford, Pennsylvania, checking in at 3 this morning. It looks like we're going to see a big warm-up headed our way before we turn much cooler for Sunday. Today, clouds give way to partial sun. We'll get up to about 30 to 35 this afternoon. Sunrise this morning was at 7:39. Tonight, sunset is at 4:56. Clouds, they'll start to show up tonight. It'll be breezy. An evening low of about 30 to 35. Temperatures start to creep up overnight. We may see a passing shower, so be careful if you're on the roads late tonight. There may be some slick spots that develop. Tomorrow, we're cloudy, we're breezy, we're milder. 45 to 50 tomorrow afternoon with a few periods of rain. Scattered showers are likely tomorrow night, breezy 45. Brian, it is going to feel like the first weekend in May on Saturday. We'll have cloudy, breezy weather. Rain will fall. Temperatures will hit 60 to 65. Then they fall Saturday night. And by Sunday, we could be looking at some morning snow showers with highs around 35 degrees.
Back on Newsmaker, continuing now with Congressman Tom Reed and his weekly press call. Next question comes from Jason Sample. He's a Jamestown reporter.
Hey, getting to this question that was asked about the governor's run, I'm curious to know how much of a factor will it be when the reapportionment comes? I know obviously we're going to see congressional lines redrawn, a couple of seats, one, possibly 2 seats lost when they redo the census for New York State. How much of a role is that going to play in your decision to run for governor? Would you still want to seek a run in Congress in 2022, regardless of how the lines are drawn, or does that play a role in what your decision will be?
Well, our representation in Congress always rests first and foremost on the voice of the people. And so where congressional lines are drawn and what they look like, to me, is not the concern. It's what the people want to have in regards to who's representing them in Washington, D.C. So that's what drives me in regards to these considerations when it comes to congressional representation and our desire to be that voice and to complete the mission that we started almost 10 years ago now as we speak. And I will just tell you, I'm going to always trust the wisdom of the people, and it's up to the people to make this call. Now, we got a long way to go. I am focusing on this election as the top priority. As you know, I'm committed to running in November 2020. And we're going to put our voice and vision out there and our success and effectiveness up against anyone, whoever that opponent may be, as we go into November 2020.
Okay, and just another topic. The media release this morning, you and Josh Gottheimer announced the Energy Sector Innovation Credit Act. Talk about why this is important. And also, in the quote that you had in the media release, it says, "Our climate is changing. There is no denying this." I know that some folks want to say that still the climate change isn't a reality, but it sounds almost like this credit is to help, this tax credit program is to help fend off climate change, which it sounds like it's saying that it's possibly man-made. Is that something that you're agreeing it is attributed to? Is climate change is something that's a result of humans and not nature?
Yeah. So, I've always said climate change is real, that I do believe it is occurring. I think there's a legitimate debate as to, is it 100% man-made? Is it X% naturally occurring in a combination with man-made activity? But I do believe man has contributed to it. So I don't deny that, never have. That being said, we can have the fight about what is the cause of climate change, or what I believe is more productive, can we put ideas on the table that are going to solve the issue of climate change and clean up our environment, clean up our air, clean up our water, clean up our backyards. And the Energy Innovation Tax Credit is exactly that type of proposal, where we are putting the tax code to use to encourage what I believe is going to be the primary tool to address climate change, and that is the ingenuity and innovation of the American people, not government mandates, not government bureaucracies that come up with artificial standards that cannot be achieved because the technology isn't out there. I think the better way to approach this is to have the next generation of innovation produce the energy in a cleaner, more effective, and efficient way. And when you do that, you will clean up the environment. You will ensure that you are doing this not only in America, you will make that technology accessible and affordable across the entire world, which then would lead countries like China, India, Asia, Africa countries in a position to buy that technology, deploy that technology because it's affordable and accessible to them. That would be a worldwide movement that hopefully we can spark with the Energy Innovation Tax Credit that we announced today.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Hannah from Tappan to Greater Lane.
I do have one question.
Okay, sure, Hannah.
This morning, the president had said, quote, the United States will impose additional punishing economic sanctions on the Iranian regime, end quote. What will this include? Do you know?
Yeah. So my understanding is that Secretary Mnuchin is drawing up those sanctions as we speak, and they will include, hopefully, other countries, especially in the European arena, that will join in us in cutting off the economic activity going to Iran through things such as oil sales and other military, or I should say not military, I should say weapon sales that occur there. And so those are the primary revenue of the Iranian government, and getting clarification and sanctions that cut off that resource to Iran and have other partners across the world in regards to countries and private businesses and private actors participate in those sanctions is my understanding at the heart of what they're trying to propose and trying to enact. And I support the use of those economic sanctions, both existing and further enhancing them as we go forward. And I think hopefully this will move us away from the military options and deploy economic and then hopefully at the end of the day diplomatic solutions to this issue.
Thank you. And actually, I do have one more question, if you'll allow me.
Sure, go right ahead, Hannah.
All right. It's another question about the census. As someone else already said, we're possibly losing a congressional seat, and I'm curious what you think the impact might be on Western New York as a result of potentially losing a seat.
Well, as we have gone through this before in 2010, and if you look historically, because of the policies that are driving people out of New York, we are losing a seat at the table when it comes to our congressional delegation and our congressional voices, because we're getting fewer and fewer each time the census is completed in New York. And I think that is directly attributable to the big government mindset and now the one-party control of Albany that is driving people out of New York because they just can't take it anymore. They cannot have opportunities for their children to enjoy. They're not having the ability to pay their bills and maintain their properties because the tax load and the tax burden of our communities is just becoming so great. And so I think the core result of that in the loss of representation in Congress is demonstrated by having fewer and fewer voices to represent us in Washington, D.C. And that's not only unique to Western New York, that is across the entire state. And, my hope is that this is another reason why we should wake up in New York and say, you know what, we need to change course in Albany because this is causing not only this exodus, but this loss of prosperity that has made New York great up to this point in time.
Thank you very much. That's it from me.
Okay, thanks, Hannah.
All right, well, that wraps it up.
All right, guys, thank you so much. Look forward to it next week. Take care.
Really enjoy doing these press calls from Congressman Tom Reed. You get a lot of good questions, a lot of different perspectives from all the different reporters. Those are always interesting to play back here on the radio. It's AM 1480 WLEA. I'm Brian O'Neill. Join us tomorrow for Dr. Bob.